Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Fola. If you are new here, you are welcome to this channel. So in today's video, I'll be showing you how to sew a short with an elastic waistband. This is a beginner friendly tutorial. It's really easy to make. So if you are interested, keep on watching and let's get started. To make this short, you'll be needing about 1 yard of Ankara fabric. So I have 1 yard here and I've gone ahead to fold it into 2 equal halves. So I'll start imputing my measurements now. So the first thing I'm going to do here now is to mark 2 inches downward from the top of my fabric. That will be for my elastic casing. So I'm going to connect that. So all our vertical measurements will be starting from that line there. So the first thing I'm placing now is the hip line, which is 9 inches. Then I place the crotch line. To get the crotch line, you divide your hip circumference by 4. So the hip circumference I'm working with here is 46. So when divided by 4, that is 11.5. So I marked 11.5. Then I placed the short length. The short length I'm working with is 18 inches. So I'm going to rule out my lines. So I'm going to label the lines. This is my hip line, my crotch, and my length. So the next thing I did was to impute quarter of my hip circumference plus 1 inch allowance. I impute that on the hip line. Quarter of the hip circumference is 11.5 plus 1 inch allowance, that is 12.5. So I placed the same measurements on the hip line, on the crotch line, and on the waistline. So I'm going to connect that with a straight ruler. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to impute my crotch extension. To get your front crotch extension, all you are going to do is to divide your hip circumference by 20. The hip circumference I'm working with here is 46 inches. So when I divided that by 20, I had 2.3 inches. So I just approximated it to 2.5 inches. So what I placed there is 2.5 inches. So I'm going to connect that with my curved ruler. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place the tie circumference on the length. The tie circumference I'm working with is 28 inches. So half of that is 14 inches. So I'm going to place 14 inches there. Then I'm going to connect that with my ruler to the crotch line, just like you see me doing. So the next thing I did was to place 1.5 inches there. 1.5 inches allowance to fold the hem of my shirt. And I'll connect that. So I'm going to cut that out. So I'm going to fold in the hemming allowance like that to cut out the length. So I'm going to cut out my shorts now. So I'm going to slash the folded part open to give us 2 separate pieces. So that will be all for the front pattern. To cut out the back pattern now, all I'm going to do is to place the front on the back, like you see me doing. I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches from the edge of my fabric, from the top of my fabric like that, before placing the front pattern. So I'm increasing the center back by 1.5 inches. You can make use of 1 inch if you are a small size. Then I'm going to connect that to the side like that. I'm going to connect that like you see me doing. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to extend my crotch line like that. So I'm going to place my back crotch extension there. So from where the front crotch extension ends, I'm going to place the same 2.5 inches I placed for the front. I'm going to place it there too. Then I'm going to place 2 inches for my allowance, for ease allowance and sewing allowance, around the crotch like that. I'm going to place 2 inches all around. Then I'm going to connect it. The 2 inches is for my allowance and the ease around the back. Then I'm going to place 2 inches along the inseam, just like you see me doing. Then I'll connect that to the crotch. I'll connect it to the crotch line like that. So that will be all for the back pattern. So I'm going to cut that out. So that will be all for the cutting part. We'll start joining now. So we'll start by joining the crotch area. We'll go ahead to sew the front crotch and the back crotch with 1/2 inch allowance. So I've gone ahead to sew that. So the next thing I'll do now is to join the inner thigh area. You place the front on the back. Then you go ahead and sew the inseam like that. So you're going to pin the crotch area. You sew that with our 1/2 inch allowance. So this is it after I was done sewing. So the next thing we are going to do now is to join the sides. You'll notice the back is bigger than the front pattern. That is absolutely fine. So we'll go ahead to stitch the side like that. Then we'll do that to the other side. You make sure they are aligning, then you stitch it at the side. So this is it after I was done stitching the side. So the next thing we are going to do now is to work on the elastic on our waist area. We are working with a 1 inch elastic. So to know the measurement of the elastic you are going to be making use of, all I did here was to subtract about 5 inches from the actual waist measurement. The actual waist measurement I'm working with is 39 inches. So all I did was to subtract about 5 inches from that. So I cut out 34 inches for my elastic band. Remember, we left 2 inches allowance for our elastic waistband. So all I'm going to do now is to fold in the 2 inches like you see me doing. So I'm going to fold it in. So I'll go ahead to stitch that round the waist of my shorts. So I've gone ahead to stitch that, and I left about 2 inches opening there. I didn't stitch that completely. So I'm going to be passing my elastic through that channel. So I'll be passing my elastic with the safety pin. So I'll be passing my elastic through that channel. I'll be passing it round my waist, just like you see me doing. I'll make sure all the elastic is stretched through the elastic casing. So all I'm going to do now is to stitch the elastic at the 2 ends like that. I'll go ahead and stitch that down. Then I'll put that in and I'll close my channel. So this is it after I was done sewing. So I've stitched down the space I left for my elastic, and I've gone ahead to hem the down part of my shorts. So that is all for the sewing of our shorts with an elastic waistband. You can see how easy and simple it is to make. If this video has been helpful to you, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Please, subscription is absolutely free. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.